Heartwarming Heroism. Brave girl saves boy from fiery crash, revealing the billionaire father's controversy. Amelia Hart's heart raced as she pedaled through the sun-drenched streets of her small Midwestern town. She was just a girl, but with dreams as big as the sky. It was a typical spring afternoon when she witnessed a moment that would change everything. A luxury car speeding down the road, weaving through traffic like it owned the place. Suddenly, a truck pulled out of a side street, and it happened in a heartbeat. The screech of tires, a crushing impact, and flame smoke billowing like a giant angry cloud. "Oh no," she gasped. Without a thought for her own safety, Amelia dashed toward the fiery wreckage. Her heart pounded as adrenaline surged through her veins. She could feel the heat on her face as she approached, panic-induced nausea settling in her stomach. But she couldn't turn back. Inside that car was a boy, trapped and terrified. It was Jake, the son of the town's billionaire businessman. Flames licked at the sides of the vehicle, and Amelia, fearless and unwavering, reached in, her hands trembling but determined. "Hold on!" she shouted, yanking him free just as the flames roared higher. She pulled him out, rolling to the ground, gasping for breath. Cheers erupted from onlookers. Strangers suddenly bonded in awe of this courageous girl. Amelia's heart swelled with pride. She had saved a life. Yet, the roar of gratitude was soon clouded by whispers of contention. Jake's father, who cared more about reputation than integrity, lashed out, claiming it was reckless and unwise. That girl, she's from the other side of town. Who's to say she saved him? Perhaps it's just coincidental luck. The townsfolk watched in disbelief. Families rallied behind Amelia, their voices rising in defiance. Exchanges ignited like the flames of the crash. How could someone question her bravery? They were working-class people who understood struggle. They admired resilience, and they fought for the spirit that Amelia represented. As tensions rose, everybody felt the anticipation. This wasn't just a story about a girl. It was about class and worth, discussions that seemed both impossible and necessary. Amelia's mother, a devoted nurse, stood by her side, their bond forged in love and sacrifice. "No one can take away your truth, Amelia. Remember that," she said, hands clasped tightly around her daughter's shoulders. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amelia stood at the brink of heroism and public scrutiny, set to receive an award in acknowledgement of her bravery. As she prepared to step into the spotlight, a knot twisted in her stomach. Would those who doubted her misdeeds overshadow her true accomplishments? Would they taunt her for where she came from? With the weight of a town on her shoulders and uncertainty looming in the air, Amelia felt the eyes of her community upon her. As the crowd grew silent, all gathered to witness her now. Each breath hung in anticipation. All of them wanted to know, could she possibly show that true heroism is about more than privilege? Would she dare to challenge the very fabric of their town? Amelia took a deep breath, steadying herself against the weight of the moment. The crowd had fallen silent, eyes focused on her, their expressions a mix of admiration and skepticism. She could hear the hum of whispers. Doubt lingered like a shadow, threatening to dull her light. Her heart raced, but she was determined to shine brightly in a world hesitant to accept her as a hero. "Amelia Hart," the announcer's voice rang out, pulling her back to reality. She stepped up to the podium, her knees trembling but her chin lifted high. The silver medal glistened under the afternoon sun, a symbol of her bravery. Yet to her, it felt like a chain binding her to the very scrutiny that threatened her freedom. She grasped the medal. A murmur rippled through the crowd. She could pick out Jake's father, his scowl cutting through the sea of faces. What if this girl isn't the hero they think? His gaze seemed to say. But in that moment, Amelia found strength within her. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everyone who believed in the power of courage, regardless of their background. "Thank you for this honor," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor of her heart. "When I acted that day, I didn't think about who Jake was or who I was. I just knew I needed to help." Her words flowed like a river of truth, washing over the crowd. Every one of us has the ability to be brave. It doesn't matter where we come from, but rather what we do when it counts the most. A few heads nodded in understanding, though she could still sense the divide in the crowd. Jake's father crossed his arms, clearly unimpressed. Yet Amelia persisted, fueled by the spirit of both the townsfolk and her mother's unwavering support. "I grew up in a town where people struggle every day," she continued. "We're not defined by our bank accounts or our titles. We're defined by our actions. I want to be known not just as the girl from the other side of town, but as someone willing to stand up for what's right." She felt the swell of emotion rising in her chest, encouragement lighting a fire within. This was her moment to inspire change, even if it meant challenging those in power. The air crackled with tension, but Amelia pressed on. "We can bridge this divide and build a future where heroism is recognized in all its forms." A spark of excitement flickered among the crowd. Some of the parents whispered to one another, pride swelling, while others still looked doubtful. Suddenly, from the back, a voice called out, "You're right, Amelia." The words came from a boy she recognized from school. Encouraged by his shout, others chimed in, echoing their support. The cracks in the wall began to show, and Amelia realized she wasn't alone. People were beginning to see her bravery was a reflection of their own potential. But even as hope surged through her, another thought weighed heavily in the air. Just as the tide began to shift, a commotion at the edge of the crowd drew her attention. More voices erupted, filled with anger and disbelief. Someone was challenging her right to be there. What's going on? Amelia wondered, her heart pounding anew. Who was daring to undermine her moment? She turned to face the source of the noise, and her stomach dropped. Would she be ready for the battle that lay ahead? The moment of truth was building. Life had prepared her for this very fight. But could she stand firm when everything suddenly felt so precarious? Amelia's breath hitched as she scanned the crowd, her eyes landing on a tall figure shoving through the throngs of onlookers. It was Jake's father, a man known for his relentless ambition and ironclad grip on the town's wealth and influence. The tension in the air felt electric, sparking worry deep within her. What could he possibly want now? "I don't know what you think you're doing," he called out sharply, his voice slicing through the applause, dismissing it like an annoying fly. "This isn't about you, Amelia. You saved my son, yes, but you aren't a hero. You're just a girl who got lucky." Her heart pounded loudly in her ears. There was no mistaking the chill in his voice. She felt the warmth of encouragement from the crowd shrink as if pulled back into the shadow of his disdain. But rather than retreat, Amelia squared her shoulders, channeling every ounce of resolve her mother had instilled in her. "Mr. Thompson," she began, her voice surprisingly steady. "It's not just about luck. It's about courage, the kind of courage we all need to summon in times of crisis." The crowd began to murmur again, the tension palpable. Some nodded, their faces a mix of defiance and support. "Courage? Is that what you're calling it?" He shot back, his sneer carving deeper lines into his face. "What do you know about hardship? You couldn't possibly understand what it means to take risks when your family has always had a safety net." There was anger bubbling inside Amelia, but she forced herself to remain calm. "You're right. I may not have your money or your name, but that doesn't mean my actions are any less valuable. I've learned that a person's worth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured by the choices they make." The crowd began to shift again, whispers of agreement flaring alongside the simmering discontent. She caught glimpses of faces that mirrored her struggle, faces that were fed up with being silenced. Yet right in front of her stood the embodiment of everything that held them down. She couldn't help but feel like it was time to break through. "You talk about privilege, Mr. Thompson. But remember this, everyone including you has the power to make a difference. I did it that day because someone needed help. Maybe if you opened your eyes, you'd see that heroism can come from the most unlikely places. A ripple of surprise went through the crowd, and she felt a flicker of triumph. She was speaking not just for herself but for everyone who believed in their own potential. Still, she felt the heated gaze of Jake's father, a raging fire threatening to engulf their hard-earned moment. "You think you're some kind of role model?" he countered, his tone laced with venom. "I'll make sure the town remembers you as a flash in the pan, nothing more than a gimmick, an afterthought." Scattered shouts of anger resonated from both sides of the crowd, and Amelia could feel her grip on the microphone tightening. Inside, she was on the verge of panic, yet a part of her reveled in the conviction surging through her veins. As she opened her mouth to respond, she spotted Jake just beyond the podium. His face, pale with concern, held a hint of admiration. Her heart softened at the sight of him, the boy whose life had shifted everything. She took a breath and turned back to Mr. Thompson, balancing the emotion of the moment with fierce determination. "Jake may have been saved that day, but it's time we discuss saving our town. Instead of pitting us against each other, let us come together, wealth or no wealth. We're all in this together." As Amelia's words echoed through the crowd, she could see a subtle shift in their expressions. For the first time, doubt seemed to flicker in the billionaire's eyes. The whispering grew louder, supporters rallying for Amelia, and in that swell of growing unity, she sensed the tide turning. But just as hope crackled in the air, another figure emerged from the crowd, someone Amelia didn't expect to see. A figure who could change everything, who could flip the whole narrative on its head. Wait, Amelia's heart raced as she recognized the woman stepping forward, her voice a whisper away from cracking the facade of this pivotal moment. What new reality would this revelation bring? Amelia's heart raced as she locked eyes with the woman emerging from the crowd. It was Mrs. Johnson, the town's librarian, an unassuming woman who had always stayed out of the spotlight. Amelia couldn't believe her eyes. What was she doing here? The murmuring in the crowd quieted as Mrs. Johnson stepped forward, her voice trembling but filled with purpose. "Amelia, I need to say something." Her hands fidgeted with the hem of her sweater, and Amelia could see her struggling to find the right words. "Go ahead, Mrs. Johnson," Amelia urged, her heart swelling with hope. Perhaps the librarian had a story to share that could bridge the gap between them and the billion-dollar empire looming over their town. With an unsteady breath, Mrs. Johnson continued, "I've lived in this town for over 30 years. I've seen children like Jake grow up, and I've watched families struggle. But what you did, Amelia, it was more than a brave act. It sparked a fire in all of us." The crowd stirred, ripples of agreement running through them like a wave. Tension bloomed as they edged closer, each eager to hear more from the woman they hadn't expected to speak up. "Mr. Thompson," she said, turning her gaze toward him, "you talk about your wealth as if it gives you power, but it doesn't define you. What defines us is how we choose to help one another." Amelia watched as Jake's father stiffened, his face reddening. Torn between his anger and surprise, he seemed momentarily captured by Mrs. Johnson's conviction. She continued, her eyes bright with determination. "There are so many kids in this town that need guidance. Guidance that comes not just from money, but from hearts that care. Amelia saved your son, but you can save so many more by realizing your privilege comes with a responsibility." The words hung heavy in the air. The crowd, emboldened by Mrs. Johnson's unwavering stance, began to chant Amelia's name. "Amelia! Amelia!" Feeling empowered, Amelia turned back to the crowd, the microphone suddenly feeling like an extension of her voice. "We can create something beautiful together. We can support our children. We can harness our strengths, whatever they may be. Let us teach our kids that their worth is not defined by their bank accounts, but by their hearts." With that, an inexplicable energy spread like wildfire, infecting everyone present. Amelia felt the warmth of solidarity wash over her, faces lighting up with renewed hope and determination. But then, she noticed something else, a small glimmer of clarity in Mr. Thompson's eyes. It was fleeting, but it was there. Maybe, just maybe, he felt a shift in the ground beneath him. "Please, let us move past our differences," Amelia said, desperation creeping into her voice. Let us invest in our community, create opportunities, and acknowledge that we can uplift each other. Money doesn't build a community, people do. Then suddenly, Mrs. Johnson raised her hands for silence. She looked around, ensuring everyone was listening, then said something that quieted the fervor of the crowd. We need to show Mr. Thompson that we want to build a better future for all of us. But he must first make the choice to listen. Amelia felt the rush of adrenaline as a surge of realization swept through her. They were at a crossroads. What would happen if the town stood together? What if they could prove to Mr. Thompson that his empire could either support their growth or become a relic of the past? Just then, a flicker of pain crossed Mrs. Johnson's face. We can't just fight. We have to offer something to bring him back to us. There's an opportunity here, one that I've been researching for years. It's time to build a new bridge. Amelia's heart pounded as she recognized the weight of what had been said. What kind of opportunity? Mrs. Johnson glanced at the crowd, gathering her breath. A community project that could transform our town, and Mr. Thompson might hold the key. The anticipation in the air shifted dramatically as the implication of her words sank in. What project could possibly spark such a significant change? And at what cost? Amelia's mind raced, thoughts swirling with possibility and anxiety. This could be their chance, their moment to push back against everything that had held them down. But the question lingered in the air, would Mr. Thompson even consider aligning with them? Who knows what the future holds? Amelia thought, glancing at Jake, his eyes wide with intrigue. Whatever lay ahead, change was finally within reach, and one thing was certain. Their journey was just beginning. What would happen next, and would they be ready to embrace the challenge? Amelia felt the weight of Mrs. Johnson's words pressing in on her, heavy yet charged with potential. A community project? It echoed in her mind as the crowd buzzed with whispers and curiosity. She turned to face them again, determined to channel their collective energy into something positive. Can you tell us more? Someone shouted from the back. The question hung in the air, visibly stirring the crowd. Mrs. Johnson nodded slowly, her eyes scanning the faces, igniting hope in the hearts of everyone watching. There's an abandoned community center on the outskirts of town. It was once a hub of activity, where kids played, families gathered, an actual heart for our community. She explained, her voice weaving a tapestry of memories. Over the years, neglect has left it in ruins, but it could become a sanctuary again. The synergetic energy surged among the crowd, manifesting in nods and murmurs of agreement. Amelia could feel the swell of excitement. It was like a current running through them, a promise of what could be. It wouldn't just be a renovation, Mrs. Johnson continued. It would be a transformation. We could create after-school programs, art classes, mentorship initiatives. It would be a place where kids like Jake can thrive, where we can teach them values, creativity, and possibility. Amelia's heart soared, and her breath caught in her throat. This project was more than just bricks and mortar. It could build connections and dreams, a tapestry of community woven together. There was a murmuring of encouragement now, voices buoying one another as they imagined what could unfold. But one voice broke through the hopeful chatter. It was Mr. Thompson. And what makes you think I'd be interested in backing this? He challenged, crossing his arms tightly. There was disdain in his tone, but a flicker of interest danced in his eyes. Amelia felt her pulse quicken, adrenaline pulsing through her, because she spoke out, her voice steady and full of conviction. You have the resources that can revive this town. This isn't just about money. It's about legacy. Wouldn't you want to be remembered as the man who helped build something lasting? Mr. Thompson's brows furrowed, and the crowd leaned in closer, tension building like a coiled spring. What would he say? People remember those who leave a mark, said Amelia, her heart racing as she pressed on. This could be your chance to reshape how the community sees you, not as a billionaire, but as a benefactor. A catalyst for change. Silence enveloped them. It was palpable, each person waiting with bated breath. Amelia's gaze locked onto Mr. Thompson's. His jaw clenched, deep in thought, and for a moment, The pride he held so tightly seemed to soften, threads of vulnerability peeking through the fabric of his exterior. Then Mrs. Johnson stepped closer to him, her small frame embodying immense strength. "We are asking you to partner with us, to invest in the people of this town. Let us show the next generation that even the wealthiest among us can care. Together we can make it happen." The crowd began to murmur again, voices rising with a swell of hope and solidarity. Amelia felt a quiver of fear mixed with anticipation. Would this last? Would Mr. Thompson take them seriously? "And if I say yes?" he challenged, his voice low, but there was a new tone. "A crack in his armor? Then you'd be part of something more significant than you could ever imagine." Amelia breathed, her heart racing faster than ever. "We'd be creating a legacy, not just for today but for our children and their children. Community that thrives." The crowd erupted in cheers, their excitement almost palpable, sending a buzz of energy through Amelia. Yet within that joy was a quiet fear. What if he refused? With a slackened brow, Mr. Thompson regarded the crowd and then shifted his eyes to Amelia. For an eternal moment, everything stood on a precipice of possibility. "Let us find out what it truly means to build together," he finally murmured, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. Amelia's heart raced. Was this the breakthrough they had hoped for, or just another flicker of false hope? Before she could gather her thoughts to respond, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the community center. Everyone froze, their excitement suddenly stilled by the unexpected sound. What was that? Someone whispered, their voice laced with dread. Amelia's mind raced. Could it be a sign? Something that would either fortify their camaraderie or shatter it completely. Little did they know, this would be a defining moment in their journey, one that could either unite them or send them spiraling into uncertainty. What lay beyond that echo was still hidden, but one thing was clear. They were standing at the edge of something immense. Would they step forward, knowing they could forge a new path? The crowd remained frozen, their hopeful chatter replaced by the heavy air of anxiety. Amelia's heart raced as she turned towards the dilapidated community center, tracing the silhouette of its broken windows against the setting sun. The crash had reverberated like a gunshot, a wake-up call that pierced through the dreams they had just begun to weave. "Everyone, stay back," Amelia called out, urgency creeping into her voice. She started toward the direction of the noise, her instincts driving her forward. The fear wrapped itself around her like a vice, but she couldn't stand still, not when there might be someone who needed help. The thrumming heartbeat of the town faded behind her as she approached the center, the air thickening with uncertainty. Dust swirled in the fading light, giving the place a ghostly aura. What if someone had fallen? Or what if the building, long ignored, had finally given way? "Amelia, wait!" Mrs. Johnson's voice cut through the tension, but Amelia forged ahead. She could feel the presence of eyes on her, each gaze filled with worry and curiosity. They were all here on this edge with her, but this was her moment to act. Rounding the corner of the center, she stumbled upon the source of the crash. A large stack of old wooden pallets had toppled over, revealing a group of children, including Jake, who had been playing nearby. They were crouched in a huddle, eyes wide, hearts racing. "Are you okay?" Amelia asked as she rushed forward, her voice laced with concern. "What happened?" Jake, trembling slightly, pointed toward the fallen pallets and stuttered, "We were just playing hide and seek and it fell." Relief flooded through her, but her focus shifted when she noticed one of the younger kids, a girl with pigtails, sitting on the ground, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can't move my leg," she cried. Amelia dropped to her knees, examining the scene with urgency. "Stay still, okay? I'm going to help you." She spoke softly, trying to soothe the frightened girl. Taking a deep breath, she turned to the other children. "Can someone go back to the crowd and get help? We need someone to call 911. "I'll go," Jake exclaimed, his spirit ignited by the urgency of the moment. He darted off back to where the group stood, a whirlwind of motion determined to help. Amelia reassured the girl. She felt the warmth of the community's spirit around her. They were small but resilient, each of them willing to stand together, to support even the littlest amongst them. Minutes felt like hours. She stayed beside the injured girl, talking to her about everything and anything. The girl's breaths began to steady as they focused on something other than the pain, and Amelia felt her own heart beating in sync with hope. Finally, sirens wailed in the distance. Relief flooded Amelia's chest. Help was on the way. As the sound drew closer, there was a shift in the crowd behind her. The voices grew louder, filled with a mix of worry and hope. Then she heard a deeper voice mixed with the high-pitched cries of children. It was Mr. Thompson. Everyone step back. We need room for the paramedics. Her breath caught in her throat. Why was he stepping in? She turned slightly to see him approaching. His demeanor different, more grounded, as he surveyed the scene with authority. What was going through his mind? Would he still want to back the project after this? The weight of what had just happened settled over her like a thick blanket. The community's dreams hung in the balance, ready to either soar or be crushed under the weight of fear and uncertainty. As the paramedics rushed in, Amelia realized they were all at a crossroads. The journey they hoped to embark on now felt heavy with implications. Could a simple accident alter everyone's resolve? Did it pull the threads of their community tighter or send them spiraling into divisions? With every heart in that moment aching for something to change, she looked at Mr. Thompson, hoping to see the spark she had watched ignite earlier. What decisions would come after this incident? Would they still stand united? Amelia held her breath, waiting for the answers to emerge as the sirens faded, and a new chapter hovered just beyond their reach. Amelia could hardly catch her breath as the paramedics took over. Their movements were quick and efficient, a sharp contrast to the chaos that had erupted just moments before. The girl with pigtails whimpered softly as they worked, her eyes darting nervously from the strangers to Amelia. "Keep your eyes on me, sweetie," Amelia encouraged, reaching out to hold her hand. "You're going to be okay. Promise." The girl nodded, squeezing Amelia's fingers tightly, as if drawing strength from her presence. It was hard for Amelia to believe her own words. Everything felt so fragile now. A collective urge to help had faded, replaced by tension and uncertainty. As the paramedics began to wrap the girl's leg, Mr. Thompson loomed nearby, his expression unreadable as he observed the scene. She could feel a whirlpool of conflicting emotions brewing within him: concern for what had just happened, doubt about how it might affect the community's aspirations, and perhaps guilt for any role he played in pushing forward with the project. "Amelia," he finally said, his voice low and steady. "You did well here. The kids needed you." She made eye contact with him, searching for a thread of reassurance, a signal that this disaster wouldn't be a setback but a rallying point. "What about the project?" This she gestured to the center. "People are scared." "Fear can be a catalyst," he replied, his tone shifting to one of determination. "But it can also divide. We need to show them unity, Amelia. We can't let this accident define us." The paramedics were now gently lifting the girl onto a stretcher, and Amelia's heart raced again, this time with concern and a hint of pride. "We need to spread the message," she whispered urgently. "If we're going to build something beautiful here, we can't let fear keep us down." A flicker of hope sparked in Mr. Thompson's eyes. "You're right. Maybe this is the moment for change, for real community spirit." Just then, the loud hum of the crowd surged again as more townsfolk arrived, nearby firefighters joining the scene. Their presence infused the air with energy, and a familiar sense of purpose seemed to revive the onlookers. They gathered, forming an impromptu barrier, creating a protective circle around the stretcher. Their murmurs transformed from anxious speculations to shared affirmations of support. Amelia watched as they rallied together, handing out water bottles and snacks, checking in with one another, trading stories about their own experiences of near misses and accidents. This showed her the strength they collectively wielded, a bond forged out of shared struggles. What if, the thought bubbled forth unbidden, what if we organized more community events? Fundraisers? Cleanups? Anything that pulls us together? Mr. Thompson nodded, visibly warming to the idea. "Yes, let us take back the narrative. Let us show the community we can rise above this." As the girl was wheeled away, she caught Amelia's gaze, offering a small, brave smile. It was one full of trust and gratitude. In that moment, Amelia realized that she wasn't just a bystander anymore. She was leading this charge, holding the weight of hope for all of them. With the first steps of formation set, Amelia looked out to the crowd, now buzzing with a renewed energy and fresh ideas. The fear began to dissipate, and for the first time that night, she felt the exhilarating flicker of possibility. But what would they do next? What could emerge from this one night of chaos? Amelia turned back to Mr. Thompson, determined to lead, her heart swelling with a mix of hope and trepidation. "This is just the beginning, Mr. Thompson. Together we can turn this accident into our strength." His response was interrupted by the sound of Jake sprinting back, breathless. "Amelia, you won't believe what just happened." Curiosity coursed through her veins. What had he found? What lay ahead as they crafted their new path? Jake stood there, panting, his eyes wide with excitement. "You have to see this. It's incredible." Amelia felt her pulse quicken. "What did you find, Jake?" "Mr. Thompson's been talking to people, sharing your idea. He just got a couple of volunteers for that fundraiser you talked about," he said, his face brightening. "And you won't believe who showed up." "Who?" she asked, leaning in with growing anticipation. "Mrs. Gibbons," Jake exclaimed. "She brought her cafe staff. They want to help with food donations. And I saw Mr. Ryan too. He said he could cover the music." A wave of warmth surged through Amelia. The connections they had started to make were igniting a flame of community spirit. The thought that Mr. Ryan, the reclusive musician, was willing to join in filled her with a sense of possibility. "Are they really?" Amelia clutched Jake's shoulder, her heart racing with excitement. "That's amazing. We could have a block party. A real celebration to lift everyone's spirits." "Exactly." Jake's enthusiasm was infectious. "And get this, I heard some of the high school kids are already brainstorming ideas for games and activities. They want to take charge." "That's so encouraging," Amelia replied, her thoughts racing. "A collaborative effort could rebuild trust and show we're united. It's what we need right now." Just then, Mr. Thompson joined their conversation, his demeanor radiating optimism. "Did I hear something about a block party?" He smiled, the tension in his eyes easing. "I like the sound of that. Can send a strong message." Amelia nodded. "If we all pitch in, it could not only boost morale but also raise funds for safety measures at the center." They gathered a small group, brainstorming ideas and rallying more people into their fold. Each suggestion sparked more, a chain of enthusiasm that fueled their mission. Conversations flowed, laughter drifted into the air, and the looming sense of dread from earlier began to fade, replaced with excitement as they divided tasks. Amelia felt her resolve strengthen. This was more than just a response to a chaotic night. It was about creating lasting connections. She organized teams to follow up with volunteers, and oddly enough, the girl with pigtails, now resting in the hospital, became a symbol for their cause. "Let us make her recovery a part of this," Amelia suggested. A way to honor her bravery. The flicker of hope in the crowd began to glow brightly. As the daylight faded, it illuminated their faces with promises that were starting to shine through. They would turn the tragedy into a community triumph. As the night deepened, Amelia felt a deep connection binding them all. Underneath the stars, they embraced a shared purpose that felt almost sacred. But just as they began to envision the future, a sudden voice cut through the newfound joy like a blade. "Hey everyone." It was Lisa, her voice shaky but firm. "What about the other kids? What if they're afraid to come back here?" An uneasy silence fell over the group, the air thickening with unspoken fears and uncertainties. Amelia's heart sank. They had been so focused on unity, but what about the lingering scars? How could they reassure every child that it was safe to gather again? She looked around at her friends, their eager faces showing a glimmer of doubt. "Maybe we can create a welcome-back event, something to help everyone feel safe again," she offered, trying to breathe life back into the conversation. Would it be enough to address their concerns? Amelia felt that weight pulling her down again, uncertainty creeping back into her mind. What would be the best way to heal these wounds? Jake was already nodding, his enthusiasm unyielding. "Yeah, we can make it fun, welcoming." It'll encourage everyone to come, especially the kids. With their next steps preparing, Amelia could feel the spark of hope and fear wrestling within her. She needed to harness that strength and turn it into something real. To forge ahead, she whispered to herself, "Together we can manage this." But could they truly bridge those gaps? And more importantly, would the community follow her lead when they felt so uncertain? As the conversation swirled around her, she was left wondering how to overcome both fear and doubt, and if the bravery found within such moments could ignite a lasting change. The next morning, Amelia awoke with a blend of hope and trepidation swirling in her chest. After the conversation with Lisa, her mind buzzed with ideas for the Welcome Back event. As she got ready for the day, she found herself staring out the window, watching the sunlight filter through the trees. It felt like the community's very heartbeat was alive outside. She grabbed her notebook, filled with hastily jotted ideas, and headed to the cafe where different volunteers met. As she walked in, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, helping to chase away her remaining doubts. Jake was already there, animatedly discussing plans with some high school kids who had rolled up sleeves, ready to dive into the details. "Hey, you made it," Jake called, waving her over. "Of course. What's the latest?" she asked, sliding into a chair. The kids shared their concepts for games, their eyes shimmering with enthusiasm. One girl suggested a scavenger hunt, while another proposed a talent show where everyone could showcase their unique abilities. Ideas bounced around the table, each one more vibrant than the last. Amelia felt her pulse quicken as excitement swelled within her. "This is it," she exclaimed. "A welcome back fun day. You guys are killing it with these ideas." They formed smaller teams, assigning tasks, including decorations and promotional flyers. Laughter echoed, mingling with the sound of clinking cups and the comforting hum of conversation. Yet, amidst the laughter, Amelia couldn't shake that gnawing feeling in her gut about the kids who felt uncertain. Jake noticed her pensive expression. "You okay?" he asked gently. Amelia hesitated. I want to make sure that all the kids feel safe. What if the others don't know about this? Or they're too scared to join?" Her voice cracked slightly. "You're right. But this is a way to show them they can be brave. We'll make it fun and friendly. They'll feel it when they're here," Jake reassured her. His words struck a chord, reigniting the flame of determination inside her. "Okay, let us reach out to the families. We can invite them personally, maybe even share some of the stories of recovery and hope as they work together." Ideas flourished. Amelia felt lighter, her heart swelling with affection for this makeshift family they were forming. Hours passed, and the cafe buzzed with their collective energy. They decided to throw in a mural project. Everyone could contribute their mark, a way to symbolize unity and rebirth. Later that afternoon, as they sat down for a break, a small commotion at the door caught Amelia's attention. A group of kids peered in, hesitant but curious. Her heart skipped a beat. They looked like they were unsure if they should enter. "Let us invite them in. Come on," Jake said, already standing, his voice raised in an inviting tone. Amelia held her breath as they joined the others at their table. Suddenly, it felt different. The kids, at first shy, began to engage. They perked up as Jake shared their plans for the Welcome Back event, and soon the air shifted, filled with anticipation instead of fear. As the discussion flowed, Amelia watched them light up. Ideas and hopes became intertwined, growing into something beautifully intricate. It was as if the walls they had built around themselves were crumbling, brick by brick. But then, amidst the day's warmth, one of the newcomers spoke up, a boy with deep-set eyes. "What if it happens again?" he asked, vulnerability lacing his words. All eyes turned toward him, the room quieted, and every heartbeat seemed to resonate with the same fear he voiced. How could they assure themselves, that safety wasn't just a concept, but a reality they could truly reclaim? Amelia felt the weight of uncertainty return, rolling in like a wave, but this time, she felt ready. Looking around at the kids, a fight for reassurance bubbled within her. "I promise we'll be here together," she said, her voice steady, every step of the way. Could her assurance turn into something stronger? As they gathered their thoughts, Amelia sensed that this was just the beginning of discovering what community could really mean. What unspoken fears lay beneath the surface, and how would they all come to terms with their new reality? Amelia stood at the threshold of a new chapter, her heart a vivid tapestry of hope and determination. The following days blurred into a whirlwind of planning and excitement as the community rallied behind the Welcome Back event. Parents poured in, families joined forces, all inspired by the spark Amelia had ignited. She felt the change, a palpable shift in the air. The town was coming together, divisions melting away as old barriers cracked. On the day of the event, the once muted community center brimmed with energy, color, and the laughter of children running freely. Decorations fluttered in the breeze, vibrant banners hung proudly, and the sweet scent of food filled the air, enticing everyone in the vicinity. Amelia stood near the entrance, absorbing it all. Jake, his face aglow with enthusiasm, bounded up to her. "Look at everything. This is incredible." She smiled, her heart swelling at his joy. Together, they moved through the crowd, greeting parents, laughing with children, and reveling in the festive atmosphere. As she surveyed the scene, she spotted Mrs. Johnson leading a group of kids in painting a mural, their laughter echoing against the old walls, transforming them into a canvas of dreams and unity. "Hey, can you believe it?" Jake asked, his excitement infectious. "We did this. Everyone came to show support." Amelia nodded, her eyes shining. "This is more than I could have ever wished for. This is what community looks like." Cheers erupted as the local high school band set the tone, energy electrifying the atmosphere. But amidst the festivities, Amelia recalled the boy with deep-set eyes, the one who had dared to voice his fear. She understood the responsibility they all shared. She took a deep breath and climbed up onto the makeshift stage, heart racing. "Everyone," she called out, her voice steady. "Can I have your attention?" The chatter faded into eager silence. A sea of faces turned toward her, full of trust and hope. "I know that today is a celebration." Her heart raced as she saw nods and smiles. "But I also want us to remember that sometimes being brave is about acknowledging our fears." The crowd curled into attentive silence, eyes grasping her every word. "I want everyone to feel safe here, to know this is not just a one-time thing. We're creating a space where we support each other. We have each other's backs. We're not just here for today but for every day that comes after." A swell of agreement surged through the crowd, faces lighting up with affirmation. "Let us keep building this together," Amelia continued. And just like that, the tiny seeds of courage took root. The children began to chant her name. "Amelia! Amelia!" Their voices wove a rich tapestry of strength that enveloped her, contrasting beautifully against the earlier shadows of doubt that had loomed over their town. Then, from behind the crowd, she spotted Mr. Thompson. He stood watching her with an entirely different demeanor, one of approval and humility. It was a sight she thought she might never see. He stepped forward, clearing his throat. "I want to thank each and every one of you for reminding me what it means to care," he said, his voice resonating with sincerity. "I've seen you all stand together, and I realize now that our community's success cannot be built upon privilege alone. I want to join this effort. We will turn that center back into life. We will create what Amelia just described." This was the moment. The crowd erupted with enthusiasm, cheers erupting like fireworks. The reality that once felt so far away had arrived. Together, they were ready to invest in one another, lifting up their community in a beautiful, collective embrace. As the day unfolded, they began outlining steps for the transformation that lay ahead, laughter intertwining with the plans for a new era. They were united, not just a group of people living side by side, but a family growing stronger together, bound by shared experience, commitment, and hope. And then, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and violet hues, Amelia caught sight of the mural, a visual expression of their journey, their dreams, their newfound spirit. Each stroke bore witness to their collective resolve, each color a testament to their community's heartbeat. As she turned to Jake and the others, she realized this was only the beginning. The voices that rose among them were no longer whispers of doubt, but a chorus of belief and hope, ready to face whatever came next. Her heart filled with joy knowing they were ready. Together, she thought, we can do anything. And so, standing shoulder to shoulder, their hearts alight with newfound courage, they embraced the journey ahead, knowing they would rise and transform their town not just today, but for all tomorrows to come. Now is the moment to embrace this spirit of community. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next transformative stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It makes a real difference. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful transformation. You need to support the channel now and inspire others to believe in change. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the love.